Hey everyone, Aaron Stewart from the Little Black Couch. I still have not got my Little Black Couch account back yet, so we are stuck. Essentially, just doing the best we can with life right now. So I am actually going live on my personal business homepage, and we will push it over on Instagram. I mentioned yesterday that I had to fill out another affidavit to send it into Facebook. I did hear back from them today that they are considering giving me back my page. So until then, I'll be hanging out in this very modern room. Oops, I can't do that with my arms, right? This very modern room. Oh boy, here you go. Hey Kurt, you got me started on green screens. I don't know how to use green screens, but we're gonna try it for fun anyway today, because I have some stuff to talk about. So let's get going and we'll jump right into it. Thanks for coming back with me here. We'll go in front of a black and white picture of a golf course today. Looks okay. It seems like the black and white is easier for the green screen to figure out. So we'll go ahead and just leave it at that. So anyway, thanks for joining me today. It is a Friday. I just cannot believe that it's been over a week since the page admin has lost to me. Definitely I don't know if you call it a life hack, but definitely make sure that you've got more than one admin on your page so you never lose it. I just didn't think it was possible to remove yourself as admin. I just feel like, now this page is out there in space kind of doing whatever, and it's just sort of like barely hooked onto my Instagram page, which is kind of keeping it alive. But other than that, I mean, it just would have been who knows what, right? So I'm guessing that we'll probably have it back sometime next week, maybe later today. I don't even know where customer support is for Facebook, but we'll figure it out. So anyways, in the title of this live, I discussed a little bit about how we as entrepreneurs are faced with a lot of challenges. Sometimes we have to wear a lot of hats, especially when we're just starting out. And that means that a lot of times some things can go wrong, and we have to be able to think quickly on our feet and stay calm. Because when you start making decisions from a very panicked and frustrated place, those decisions are typically not very good ones. And so it reminded me I actually had a dream, and I'd forgotten that this had happened to me. I vividly remember it now. But so as I mentioned previously, I used to travel a lot. And I used to work with a lot of different entrepreneurs all over the world, and I was working for a larger company, and they were distributors, but they're all sort of like one person shops, and they would run around and try to do the best they could within their country. And I had to visit our distributor in Pakistan. And we were in Lahore, Pakistan, interestingly enough. And I kind of shared an experience of getting there earlier. Oh, my phone is freaking out. Okay, so we quieted the phone down. You know what? That reminds me, we didn't even bring Buddy in. We'll bring Buddy in a minute. So I was working with this gentleman, and he was probably in his early 60s, I think at the time, but still just, busting it, just working like crazy and making ends meet. Impressive guy, spoke really amazing English with a bit of, it was Pakistan, so a bit of an English accent, but very well versed, fascinating guy to talk to, had a lot of wisdom, and he understood the sort of history and culture and everything of Pakistan, which was really fascinating as well. So while we were there, I landed, and I kind of mentioned that story. We had kind of quite an ordeal. That's where I kind of decided that I didn't want to work for anybody else. I wanted to make my own decisions because of there was a lot of different experiences on this particular trip. But I traveled a lot, and this trip I knew that I didn't like Pakistani food, so I brought a whole bunch of power bars. So I was just living on power bars, and I just hoped they wouldn't take them away, through customs. But it turns out Pakistan doesn't really have customs. They just didn't care. We just kind of walked in with everything. There was no customs at the Lahore airport at that particular time, and probably not very long thereafter. About 2 weeks after I left, a bomb exploded and destroyed the thing. So probably rebuilt by now. But anyway, I got to the hotel, and I stayed at a place called, and I'm going to bring it up. So I stayed at a place right here called the Avari Lahore Hotel, and it was about like it looks. I mean, it wasn't totally great. I think I just looked online today to just kind of see what it is. It's like a 4.3 stars or something like that, and I don't know who's making those ratings, but when I was there, it wasn't. It was fine. As far as hotels go, it was fine, and it had all the. They were trying to be as Western-ish as possible, and so it was fine. I'm sure it was probably built back in the British era, but it had been kept up fairly well. Anyway, so I had got there, and normally I usually give myself a day before we start working the next day. So I got there and kind of settled in, and got there pretty late, so I had the whole next day where I could kind of try to check in. There was really no telephone service. There was not a whole lot I could do while I was there. But there I was. I was there. So I had this, I don't know, I just had this process where I'd always take out the clothes that I was wearing the next day, and I would go stick them in and steam them in the bathroom. So like when you took a shower and stuff, you just kind of steam them. And I went into this bathroom, and there was like no shower. And I went to their site, and they actually had this on there. So this is kind of representative of the bathroom there. Let me see if I can bring up but it brings up the green screen like that. So anyway, so this is kind of the bathroom, but you can see like no shower. I mean, it was just like a bath. And I'm like, well, that stinks. I'm not one who enjoys a bath. In fact, I don't like baths at all. I don't like swimming. I don't like to be submerged in water. I don't like any of it. So I'm like, okay, whatever. So I took my clothes and I hung them out, and then I ran the hot water, and I'm thinking, I'll just run the hot water for a while, and it will steam up the place, because now the showers, they steam up so quickly. But now I've got this I've got to, steam my clothes, and so I'm like, I'll put on the bath really hot for a bit, and then I'll go in and, hopefully they'll be steamed, and then, in the morning when I take another bath, maybe then the clothes will be all right. So I went ahead and did that. Well, unfortunately, in that particular bathroom, there isn't one of those little overflow contraptions in this particular hotel. So the bath ran, and it had quite a bit of pressure, but the water literally just started pouring over the side of the bathtub. And so I was in the main room, just kind of sitting there, putting stuff away, kind of getting organized, set up my computer, got it all kind of situated. I think I had CNN International on, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, my feet are wet. I'm like, what the? And I look over, and I realize that the water's now come out of the bathroom and is coming down the hallway, the little hallway into the bedroom area. And I'm like, oh, this is not good. And this hotel was a bit odd. They had they had armed guards walking up and down the hallway to kind of make sure, I guess, we all stayed in our rooms or something. It was just a very locked down. Like when we pulled into the hotel, they used the mirrors and checked in every little pocket and searched us all to come in to make sure we didn't have any bombs on us or anything like that. So it was. I was terrified at this point, but I was freaking out, right? I mean, now I've flooded the hotel room. I've been there, I don't know how many hours, not very long, and now I've really made a mess of things. And I started to panic. And I remember this, I just remember this thought that came over, and I have thought this so many more times in my life since. where I started to panic and I thought to myself, this doesn't help. Okay, just those words. This doesn't help, meaning panic doesn't help. You've got to solve this. So I had to get back into the bathtub first of all, and the water was scalding. I mean, even on the floor. I don't know what they were doing, so I had to kind of scream, shut off the water. But now I had scalding hand down and to pull the drain to get the water so it's going down the drain. And now I had water everywhere that I had to try to clean up before anybody noticed, right? And so I threw some towels down. Fortunately, the water hadn't gone out the door. I threw some towels down to stop it from going out the door into the hallway where the armed guard would see it. And then I tried to figure out what in the world I can do. Well, I only had like 2 towels. And so what I decided to do, I thought about it for a little while. I pulled all the water back as far as I could. And then I would watch through the peephole as the armed guard would go by. And he'd go by, and I was like right on the corner. So then he'd go this way, and then the hotel kind of would go down that way too. So he'd walk down that hall, and then he'd come back. And so you always had like 2-3 minutes. So I'd wait till he goes, and then I'd quietly open my door, and I'd run out the hallway, and I'd run down into like the housekeeping area. And so I took the wet towels with me that had soaked up everything, and I threw them down into this sort of a chute thing that just sort of disappeared. I figured that's where all the dirty clothes went. And then I would grab a bunch more towels and go running into my room and close the door quietly right before the guard would come back. And so and then I'd take those towels and I kept just soaking everything up. And I don't know how many times I went back and forth trying to get this done. But I was just, I was calm. I was remaining completely calm. And I just went about doing my business. Well, and I knew, right, eventually they're going to come up. There can't be that much water without it causing some real problems. And I was feeling sort of uncomfortable anyway, because I was in a country where there's some violence that occurs sometimes, and there's an armed guard outside. And as an American in Pakistan, you just don't really feel comfortable, ever. So I was in that mode for sure, but tried to remain calm. So I got it all sort of dried up, and even to a point where I had taken towels and just with friction had just tried to dry them up as much as possible. I don't know how many towels I'd gone through. I went through them down. I took some more back, but I'm about an hour into this. I mean, I've run like the hair dryer to try to dry the floor and stuff like that, and scrubbing and whatever. I get it so it's actually pretty good. Within an hour and 20 minutes, it's pretty dry. And then I start thinking to myself, you know what? They're going to come to the door. And when they show up at the door, they're going to have some sort of air of authority about them. And I don't want to give them the upper hand. So I pulled out my nicest clothes that I had. And it wasn't nice, but I put on a shirt and a tie and got all gussied up. And so it was probably 11 p.m. or so at this time. I think the accident happened around 9:30. And I just sat there, knowing that eventually there was going to be a knock at the door. There was either water in the rooms next door, or there was water down below. I didn't know where it had gone, but I knew that I was going to be in trouble. I knew that if my company had to pay for it, I was going to be in trouble. I didn't know what was going to go on. I was totally panicked. Anyway, they knocked on the door, and I opened up the door, and I was dressed, with a suit and tie, and I said, "Yes, may I help you?" And they said, I threw them off a little bit by being completely dressed or whatever. I think they thought I was going to be like sleepyhead or whatever. I said, "Yes, may I help you?" And they said, yes. And they kind of looked in my room, and I opened up the door, and they kind of looked around and said, "Never mind. We're sorry to bother you, Mr. Stewart." And they left. I was like, woo, thank goodness. I don't know what would have happened had I not remained calm and all that. There were armed guards. It was a terrifying place. The funny thing about the whole thing is when I got home months later, we got they would charge me, I think I was there for about a week, and the entire bill was like $3,000 or something like that. They would charge us $3,000 every single month for like 6 months after that. And apparently that's just kind of what they do. So we would have to refute the charge and whatever. So if you're staying in Pakistan, just be prepared to fight the credit card side of things. I don't know. I guess they figure because we're halfway across the world, we won't notice or whatever. But that's definitely what happened. But this isn't helping. Are 3 very powerful words when you are in a total state of panic. Just calm down and say to yourself, this isn't helping, and reset your mind to start thinking again and think through what can happen. It's amazing how much more creative we can be when we're calm, right? When we're not in a state of panic. As soon as we go into fight or flight and we're not feeling safe, then our ability to think creatively and solve problems dissipates and disappears. So make sure that you have something in your arsenal. For me, it's like, this isn't helping. For you, it might be calm down. For our kids, when they start freaking out, we'd always sing calm down, some TV show, right? It works for the kids to get them calm and think about calming down. So whatever your target words is, whatever your action words are for calming yourself down, have them in place. Think about them and just let your mind know that when I say these words, it's time to calm down because I need to be thinking. And then when the problems happen at work, or a client calls with an issue, or something doesn't work out exactly right, or the internet isn't working, whatever it is, you can calm yourself down, think clearly, be creative, and work your way out of the problem. It is such a huge part of being an entrepreneur, is just being ready to remain calm and be creative. So I hope you have a very excellent weekend. Please remember,
we just want you to know,
as a mate,
you're amazing.
you're the bomb.com, bro. Thank you so much
for that clarity.
Cheers, man.
love it. Love it. You are the bomb.com. Thank you for joining me. I did want to thank a number of individuals that had started to follow us on Instagram. And I'm going to start doing that. I'm just going to start posting all the names of individuals that that start following us between shows, just to tell them thanks, and I appreciate the follow. And hopefully, very soon we will be back on the little black couch Instagram page. You know, I never even brought him in, did I? And he look at that, a Pakistani flag right there for us. I never even brought him in. Sorry, buddy. It's so hard when we don't have our own page up to remember to do everything. So anyway, thanks for joining me on the Little Black Couch. Entrepreneurs are amazing. They change the world. Until next time, do good and be well. Thanks.